step is we want the whole thing equal to 0. Is this thing equal to 0? No. How could I get it equal to 0? Any ideas?
Oh, you can diamond it.
Diamond?
Oh wait, it equals. What's it called?
I want the right-hand side to be 0, so how could I get that right-hand side to be 0? I can. I can subtract 16 from both sides.
Oh, more cool.
What's 16 minus 16?
0.
0. So who's living on the left-hand side now? X squared minus 15x. We can't combine these because there's not an x on here. Minus 16. All of that equals 0. All right. So now what can we do? Diamond. So what I want you all to do right now is I want you to use the diamond on this to factor. All right. So we need to use the diamond on this trinomial. So what two numbers multiply to negative 16 and add up to negative 15? Negative 16, positive 1. So let's factor it. Okay, x minus 16 times x plus 1 equals 0. So I know that when I multiply these two things, we get 0. So what does that tell me about one of them? One of them has to be 0, right? Now, we don't know which one has to be 0, so we have to find which number makes each one 0. So I draw the line down the middle, and I set x minus 16 equal to 0. And I set x plus 1 equal to 0. Okay, and now I need to solve each of these. X minus 16 equals 0. How do I solve? Add 16 to both sides. So we get x equals 16. X plus 1 equals 0. How do we solve that one? Minus 1. So we get x equals 0. -1. So what are my two answer choices here?
X 16.
X equals 16 or?
X equals -1.
Or -1. And I have to plug each one in individually, correct? Okay, so let's plug it in. Check 1.
Will you mark it wrong on homework?
I won't even correct it if it's not, there's no check.
Really?
Really. You must check it.
Even on the test?
Yep. That's the most important time to check it.
I hate checking it.
You know, that's...
What?
If you don't check it, that's when you get it wrong. Okay, so we have 16 minus 16 times 16 plus 1, and we want that to equal 0. What's 16 minus 16?
Wait. No, you did 16 minus 16.
I took 16 and I plugged it in here for x.
Oh.
But because we have two answers, we have to check twice. We can only plug in one thing for x at a time. Okay? So that gives me 0 times 17. And what's 0 times 17?
0.
0. So does that check?
Yes.
Yeah. Check number 2, we need to plug in -1. Okay? So let's plug in -1. -1 minus 16 times -1 plus 1, and we want that to equal 0. What's -1 minus 16? -17. -1 plus 1? 0. And -17 times 0 gives me? 0. So does it check? Yes. Alright, so skipping example 4, we're going to go straight to example 5. Okay, and I have 2x squared plus 5x plus 3 equals 0. Our first step is we want to make sure that the equation is equal to 0. Is this one equal to 0? Yeah. So then I want to factor this. What method am I going to use to factor? Bottoms up. How did you know it was bottoms up?
So there's a number in front of the...
Because there's a number in front of the x squared. So what's my first step in bottoms up? I take that first number and I multiply 2 times 3, so my new equation is going to be x squared
Plus 5x.
plus 5x plus 6
Equals 0.
equals 0. Now I can do the diamond on this. So what two numbers multiply to 6 and add up to 5?
2 and 3.
2 and 3, good. So let's factor this. X plus 2, x plus 3 equals 0. With bottoms up, am I done?
No.
No, what do I have to do? Because I multiplied at the very beginning, now I have to divide. So we divide by 2, and then we see if we can reduce. 2 over 2, does that reduce? Yeah, it reduces to just 1. 3 over 2, does that reduce? No. So now we do our last step of bottoms up, which is the bottoms up step. So we take the bottoms and we bring them up to the x's. So what does this original equation factor to?
1x.
1x plus 1 times 2x plus 3 equals 0. You okay with that? Okay. So now the whole thing is factored. So now what do I do?
Now you do what's it called? Check it. No,
Can I check it? We have the thing equal to 0, so we want to solve here.
Solve.
So not distribute. We want to solve for x here. I have 2 terms, and I know that when I multiply them, I get 0. So what do I have to do? I have to make each one equal to 0. Does anybody remember what that property is called? Zero product property. Good.
Are you going to put that as one of the factoring methods?
Zero product property is not a factoring method.
It's what?
No. Zero product property is the property that we use to solve.
Oh.
Factoring is when we get it to this point. So a factoring method is still one of the original 4 that we know. Okay? Okay, so I have x plus 1 equals 0, and 2x plus 3 equals 0. Let's do the green one first. How do I solve for x? Subtract 1 from both sides. So that gives me x equals negative 1. What about the red one? How do I do that?
Plus 3.
Y plus 3. Good. I have to subtract 3. So those guys cancel, so I get 2x equals negative 3. Is x by itself yet? No, so what do we have to do?
Divide by 2.
Divide by 2. So x equals negative 3 over 2. So how do I list my answer?
X equals negative 1, comma, negative 3.
Exactly. X equals negative 1, comma, negative 3 over 2. And that's it. Okay, Brandon said we need to check it because he wants to know how we check a fraction. So that's totally cool. So let's check it. Is it okay, just for the sake of time, that we only check the fraction one? Okay, so let's just do our check number 2. Okay, so we have x plus 1, so that means negative 3 over 2 plus 1 times 2x plus 3. 2 times negative 3 over 2 plus 3 equals 0. I ran out of room there. It's really tiny. Okay.
It's like a comma thing.
Let's zoom in one more. Yeah, I know. It's really tiny.
It's deformed comma.
Okay, so what is negative 3 over 2 plus 1? How can I get a common denominator here? Negative 3 over 2 plus 1. I cannot add these because they do not have common denominators. So we need to put the 1 into a fraction. And what do I multiply 1 by to get a denominator of 2? We multiply both by 2, right? So what is negative 3 over 2 plus 1 times 2 gives me 2 over 2. Negative 3 over 2 plus 2 over 2. When we have common denominator, the denominator just stays the same. So negative 1 over 2. So that's my first one, negative 1/2. Okay. Let's look at this second parentheses. 2 times negative 3 over 2 plus 3.
We haven't done the other one yet.
What?
The other check.
We're only going to do this check right because of time.
Do you have to do all of that?
Okay, 2 times negative 3 over 2. What happens there? 2 is the same as 2 over 1. And when I multiply these two guys together, what do I get?
Negative 6 over
Negative 6 over 2 plus 3. Does negative 6 over 2 reduce?
Yes.
To what?
3 over 1.
To negative 3 over 1 plus 3. And what's negative 3 plus 3?
0.
0. So this becomes negative 1/2 times 0. And does that give me 0?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Okay? So we just did check 2 because we're running out of time. So example 6.